Hello and welcome back to my writing vlog series. This is writing vlog number 33 and if all goes well, writing vlog number 38 will finish up this part of the project. In this writing vlog I'm going to write a chapter, a completely new chapter from scratch, and that is chapter 24. And in the next writing vlog I will do 2 chapters because that's the old chapter 21 that I will split and then add something to. According to my old versus new outline, the plot point I'm at this point is the pinch plot point. But I actually think this is going to be the darkest point, so I have this table in Word and I have the old outline or the old chapters and the new chapters and the plot points to the far right, but I think something has shifted in that, so I'm actually a step farther than I think I am or thought I was. Because if this chapter that I'm going to write today isn't the darkest point in the story, then I don't know what it is. I think this is the darkest point, but it could be pinch. But then I would need to come up with something even worse that's going to happen and have that be the darkest point, but I don't think I will do that. I think this idea that I have in mind for this chapter is pretty bad as it is. So that's, I think that is going to be the darkest point of the story. At least that's it's something that makes the story shift. So my main character has to do something about it. She's basically getting thrown out of the house she lives in because the family that she lives with isn't really fine with it anyway, and then she has to find somewhere else to live, and that's where this other character, which isn't a main character per se, but he's quite important as well. This Charlie character has gotten really close with my main character, and so they they go away together and want to live together. That's because she's thrown out, but he wants to come with her as well. It will be an interesting chapter to write, I think, because I'm going to write this. It's kind of like a mini climax, and so I guess you can call it the darkest point. I think that if something is kind of like a climax in its own right, then and it comes before the story is going to be concluded, then it has to be the darkest point, and then the next dark point of the story is going to be the climax. So I'm not really sure if that darkest point that is going to come later is actually a dark point as such, but it's definitely going to be the climax. I don't have anything else in mind, and that's how I plan on this story to unfold. But yes, according to my plan, I'm going to write this chapter from scratch, and as I said, I think it's the darkest point. And then the plot points I have left are power within, action, converge, battle, climax, and resolution. I had to write that down on this piece of paper because I find it hard to remember all of these plot points. I wrote pinch in a parentheses because I'm not sure if I have written that part of the story. I don't think that this novel that I'm writing follows this 27 chapter method to a T, because there are small shifts and maybe I combine plot points and prolong other plot points, so I'm not really sure where I'm at in the story. But as I have concluded before, I think I'm going to write the darkest point. So basically the darkest point in a story is where the main character is very low. It's the lowest she or he or they have been so far in the story, and everything is bleak and it doesn't look like things are going to be okay. My main character has experienced kind of similar things like this before, but then things go right again, and maybe I have had a bit too many of these plot points where the reader goes, oh, it won't be a problem because things are going to be all right, and then my main character, or the main character, can just go on with her life. But I want this darkest point to be darker than the other ones, and there are other plot points in the 27 chapter method that are about pressuring the main character, and those are called pinches, I think. There are a few pinch plot points throughout the 27 chapter method, and so I think I have used those here and there to create this dynamic story where there are ups and downs, highs and lows in the story. And so, as I have mentioned before, people in real life go through ups and downs as well, and this push and pull between the pinch points and the restitution chapters, or whatever you can call them, where the characters get a chance to breathe and relax, because things are hectic and things are going on, and they have to deal with a lot of things, not all the time but often, and then they need these down periods so they can relax as well. But yes, as I have said before, my plan is that I'm going to do one chapter in this writing block, and then 2 in the next one, and then 1 for the rest of them. One other thing that I would like to mention is that I'm filming this on the 7th of January 2026, and so this means that it's actually the first writing block I'm doing in the new year. I had pre-recorded a few writing vlogs before Christmas, so I could take the time off from doing writing vlogs and working on my novel. And so when I got back to working on it again today, I just had to take some time to get back into it and actually figure out what I'm going to do and make this plan with the writing vlogs. And so I have added these writing vlog and the number in my old versus new outline, so I can see, okay, I need to work on this for this writing log, and that for that writing log, and so on and so forth. But yes, what I wanted to say with that is that before the new year, I thought about doing something about the numbering of the writing blogs, but I didn't really make any decision, and also because I'm still working on the same project as I was at the end of the previous year, then I figured it makes sense to just keep on numbering the writing blogs, so the number will continue rising even though I work on different projects. I think that I will keep on numbering them sometime down the line. Hopefully in many years from now, I will probably have reached 1,000 or more writing blogs. But I don't know, maybe I will come up with another solution for how I number and title my writing blogs. But I think it makes sense to just increase the number by 1 every time I do a writing blog, so that people who are interested in writing blogs can know the right order of the videos. So far I have just put all of my writing blogs in the same playlist here on YouTube, but I'm thinking of potentially splitting up the videos or putting them on more playlists if I can, so that I group them. So for example, I don't know the exact numbers, but I worked on one project. I worked on this project earlier, and then I did something else, and then I came back to this, I think, or maybe it's the other way around. I work on different projects, and then I think that if I can put it into multiple playlists, that I will make separate playlists as well for each project. So for example, one project can be writing log number 2 to number 8, and then there's a break because I work on something else, and then in that same playlist with the project, in that playlist I can then have the other videos related to that project, and that could, for example, be number 16 to 25 or something. just an example. But I don't know, I haven't really decided anything about that yet, but I figured it was worth mentioning as well. I thought and felt like there were multiple things to address and talk about in the beginning of this writing vlog, and now I have rambled on for almost 15 minutes. I hope to shorten that down when I do the editing, but I will begin working on this novel and hopefully I can write a complete chapter and then finish up the writing for today. And so the next writing vlog I do will be for the 2 chapters that are based on the old chapter 21 that I split into 2. I looked at that as well before I started recording, and it just made me go scratching my head, because I was wondering, okay, if I'm going to add something, then where should that go? And then I think it needs to go before what is already there. And so it concludes what I'm going to write today. And then the next chapter will start with something that kind of wraps that up, and then I can go into something else instead of having something else and then going back to follow up on what I'm writing today. I hope that makes sense. But it needs to go in the right place, and I also have to figure out what I need to do with the other part of the old chapter 21 that I will keep the last part of. The first part will go in one chapter, and the end of that chapter will be a new chapter, and I will combine it with other things. But I'll try not to worry about that right now, and then just focus on what I have planned for this chapter to be about. So yes, without further ado, I will start writing on this novel, and then I will get back to you. I hope you will enjoy the section of me actually working on the novel, and enjoy the music that I put on the video. But yes, let's get into it.
Yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Yeah, yeah. I guess that I got carried away. Then we'll see what I feel today. I didn't mean to feel a thing for you, but now I must realize I do. I guess that we get married one day, but just listen to what I say. I guess I just left you there, but it doesn't mean that I don't care. We both get carried away. When we lose ourselves that way, then I know what I made. I know what to say. If I forget to say hey, you shall say it's not okay. I guess that I just have let you down. I build you up and tear you down. I just didn't mean to fool you around, but you always put me back on the ground. When I am about to act stupid, you call your good friend the Cupid. Then I'm back where I started. Soon I'll find my heart, you would party, both get carried away. When we lose ourselves that way, then I know what I made. I know what to say. If I forget to say hey, you shall say it's not okay. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know what I got to. I must contact Cupid to get to you. You were there when I needed you the most. You were also there when I only wanted to be alone. I just know what I had. I let go even though I then felt bad. But then you come back to me. I know I'll never resist you, cause you make me feel happy. Oh, we always get carried away, baby. When we just lose ourselves that way. I know you love me, yeah. I'll always know what I made. You make me happy, yeah. I know what I wanna say. I know I love you. Oh, I won't forget to say, and you love me too. You shall dare to say, hey, you shall say it's not okay. Yeah, yeah.
Hello again. I think it's about 1.5 hours later since I recorded the previous section, or before I started actually working on the novel. In this time that has passed since I started writing, I have written about 2,850 words. So that's a decent chapter, I think. The chapter is one long scene that is basically about my main character, and she is confronted by Dina, who isn't really content with what has been going on, and she tells my main character that she wants her to leave. By the time she gets home from work, my main character has to be gone. So she just needs to pack up a few things and then leave. Maybe it shouldn't take up a whole chapter, but that's what it does. It's a rewrite of the story, or I'm fleshing out the story and adding more layers, and this is how the scene unfolded. I had actually planned on including something else in this chapter, but it came to a natural place to stop or to end the chapter, and so I think that what I didn't include in this chapter I will put in the next chapter. And I also looked a bit ahead. I think I will actually just keep the old chapter combined, the old chapter 21 combined as it was, but adjust it and then have it be the next chapter after the one that I'm going to write next, I think. Maybe it resolves itself, because earlier, before I started writing on the novel today, I talked about how I thought it was the pinch plot point, or maybe it was the darkest point. So if it was the darkest point, then her being kicked out of the house that she has been living in is the darkest point. But if something else is going to happen that's even worse, then that will be the darkest point. And I actually think that I'm going to add something else, or not entirely something else, but up the stakes, so to speak. So I don't know what to call it, but my main character is still having a lot of problems, of course, but she needs to be active and take a leading role in her own life, and her getting kicked out is part of the darkest point. I think maybe that's the darkest point, or is the pinch that leads up to the darkest point. I haven't really decided if I'm going to add something that's even worse, or if I will have this other character intervene and then make things better again. But maybe I should steer away from that and then write something else instead, so my main character has a more active role. It is said that the character shouldn't just be a punching bag for the plot, and maybe she is, or maybe she isn't, but I want her to be active as well. If someone is just the punching bag, then it means that the plot happens to that character, and the character is just being bombarded with things that go wrong, and maybe also physical obstacles in the form of fighting or war or something. This story isn't about war or something on a large scale, but it's personal wars. I'm not sure what to actually call this story. Also, in terms of genre, I think I have mentioned previously that it's urban fantasy or suburban fantasy or whatever it's called. It has got some fantasy elements, but it's also a romance. But then again, maybe it doesn't really qualify as a romance novel, and so it's maybe a weird mix between different genres. But I think, and I hope that that's okay. I like to just write stories as I want to tell them, and then if they don't fit neatly into a box that can be labeled as pure fantasy or pure romance or pure sci-fi or something else, then I hope it won't matter that much. I would like to believe that there is room for stories that are not easily labeled in that way. This story is getting longer and longer, and I still have a few more chapters left to add. I think that I will write something else, come up with a different kind of plot that will make my main character more active, but also have her kind of influence what is going to happen instead of just having this other character force his will onto others and then have these other people accept him and my main character. I haven't decided. I just got this idea because I looked a bit ahead in my old versus new outline, and I could see that, okay, there's something here that I'm going to split up. But then I actually looked in the document with the story and looked at, okay, what is happening in these sections in the old chapter that I think or thought that I'm going to split, and then what's happening in that chapter could be easily combined with what happens after, because they are pretty tightly connected, even though there's a time skip or there's this chapter break in between. And I figured that I could just split the chapter at the chapter break and add stuff, but I don't actually think it makes that much sense to add stuff to both parts of that chapter, but instead have that chapter be one chapter and then add an entirely new chapter after this and before the next one. So I hope that what I just said makes sense, but basically I'm going to change my plans a bit. So the next writing vlog will probably also be about me writing one complete chapter and then having to deal with that troublesome chapter later on. But maybe I actually need to sit down and look more closely at this novel and the coming chapters to figure out what I'm going to do with which part of the story and how I'm going to structure the rest of it. I think it's fine from a narrative perspective that I have this additional plot point that I seem to be missing if I stuck to my old plan, that this thing that I just wrote is probably going to be the pinch plot point, and then I will have the darkest point for later, which will be the next writing vlog. I think that that's how it's going to be, but we'll see. Maybe I will change my mind and then stick to what I said at the beginning of this writing vlog, which is that I will split the old chapter 21 into two and then add stuff to that. But if I do that, then that will mean that what I have just written is the darkest point. But as I said, the way the story unfolded means that I didn't include the second part of what I had in mind or in my outline for this chapter. And so I can actually put more on to this. If that is going to be the darkest point, then I need to think of something that makes sense and connects the different parts of the story in a logical way. I don't really know what else to say, but is what I have written today, these 2,850 words approximately. They were about my main character waking up. She had a nightmare, and I ended the previous chapter with a nightmare, and she's worried about what will happen and if she's going to get kicked out because of everything that has happened. But then on the other hand, she's kind of content, because if she's going to get kicked out, then she will have to figure out how to live her life at that point. But that means that something else relevant to her will change for the better, and so she can't have both. It's either, as we say in Denmark, pest eller kolera. So no matter which choice she's going to face, or no matter what is going to happen, it will be bad. If she's going to keep on living her life as she has done, then it means that someone else will be missing out. And if she's getting kicked out, then that leaves room for someone else to live the life that she has been living. It's kind of cryptic and it's kind of strange, but I won't go into detail with it. But Yes, this chapter is about my main character getting kicked out, and I weave in other things as well. And there's something about a teddy bear. These two girls that live in this same house that my main character lives in. They come down into the kitchen, and my main character Katrina talks to them. And one of the girls is sad because her favorite teddy bear is broken. The head kind of fell off the teddy bear. The stitching at the neck is coming undone, and so the head has to be sewn back on. It was a detail, but it's something that I could weave into the story in a natural way, and something that shows how helpful and kind my main character is. And what I hope to convey with this is that the reader will go, oh, the main character, this Katrina, is kind and helpful, and she would have done this no matter what, because she wants to help this girl, and not just because she hopes that Dina and Greg will let her stay with this family. But Dina, this other character, comments on this thing about the teddy bear and getting the head stitched back on, and Dina comments on how she just thinks that Katrina offers the girl to sew back the head on the teddy bear to make herself look good and make Dina look bad in front of the kids. But Katrina says that it has got nothing to do with that. She just wants to help the girl, and she doesn't really care if she gets credit for mending this teddy bear or not. For all she cares, Dina can take credit for it. She just wants to help the girl fix this toy. So yes, but they talk, and they talk a bit more, and there's this thing about the teddy bear, and then Dina and the kids leave, and then Greg comes down into the kitchen, and he talks with my main character as well. And Greg isn't that opposed to having Katrina live with them. She isn't unwelcome. He won't let her stay either, but he isn't that much against her as Dina is. So the chapter ends with Greg driving her somewhere else, and the chapter ends where Greg has just dropped her off and told her goodbye, and then Katrina stands there thinking, oh, if this doesn't work out, then I don't know what to do or where to go. And then I figured that will lead into the next part of the story, which I will add. It should have been included in this chapter. Maybe the chapter was a bit too long. Maybe I should have made it shorter, more fast-paced, and then I could have made a chapter break and then added the second part. But I hope that it will be all right. If I were to add stuff to two parts of one chapter, where it doesn't really need something to be added, I think, then it's equal to me just adding one complete chapter that I think actually needs to be there. So I think I will switch it around. I just need to figure out the details, but I will do that later off camera, I hope. So I'm ready for working on the novel by the time I sit down and record the next writing log. But yes, I think that this writing log is going to be a bit long, so I'm sorry about that, but I will end the video here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will watch the next one. Until then, take care. Thank you for watching.